Hello, my name is Rob Garner. I'm a computer programming instructor, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to use site navigation in a web form application. So I'm going to create a new web application. And I'll pick C#, and we'll go to web and pick a ASP.NET web application. And I'm going to call it Site Navigation Demo. And I'm going to place it on my desktop. And it'll be an empty web form application, so empty and web forms. And to create to do site navigation and web forms, what we're going to use is an XML file. So I'm going to create or add a new item. And we should find it under data. And we're going to pick XML file, and I'm going to call it web.sitemap. This is the default name that Site Navigation and Web Forms looks for, so we're going to use the default name. And in order to create a sitemap, basically you use a series of sitemap tags. And you can so we'll specify this XML format. And by doing that, you see that we get access to sitemap and sitemap node. And under a sitemap, you will have a series of sitemap nodes. And typically we would have a home page. And for the home page, we're going to set the URL to default.aspx, which is typically our starting page. And then maybe we have underneath that a series of other sitemap nodes. And we'll just terminate with the about. And then perhaps a contact page. And so this would be a sitemap. And you can nest this however you want. You could put several sitemap nodes underneath the sitemap and have and make this as complex as you would like. But this is probably good enough for our demonstration purposes. And so now that we have this XML file, I'm going to save it. And we're going to create a new web form. And we'll make the default.aspx page, perhaps. And from our toolbox in here, we're going to look for a control called under navigation, called a sitemap path. And we'll see what this looks like with Control F5. And we can see it's not extraordinarily interesting. It just shows home. If we have multiple pages, it'll show all of them at once. So perhaps we'll add another web form. And let's see, one of the other ones was about.aspx. And we'll drag a sitemap path in here. As soon as we start repeating this, you can tell that we probably would put this in a master page, perhaps. And here you can see what happens when you get to the About page. It shows you the page you're on, and then here you have Home. So if I click on that, it goes back. And so these are, so this sitemap path is really a form of breadcrumbs. And it allows you to return back to your original page. So that's the sitemap path. We can make this look a little different by adding a path separator template. And the way that looks is like this. And we'll add a path separator template. And basically, whatever's inside of this template here is what will appear as your path separator. So I'm going to put a pipe character. And now what you can see is that that pipe character actually shows up now. So you could pick whatever you wanted. You could even add an image if you wanted by using an image tag. And we can also add a path separator style and just set some attributes for that style. Change its font maybe. And for color, maybe change that to we'll pick yellow. You could also put a specific color in using color codes. It's actually terminated here, so we don't need to put the termination tag on it. And we can see what this will come out looking like. And we can see now we have the pipe character and it's yellow. And so you can play around with the attributes and change what it looks like. You could also do this with CSS within the tags here. Let's look at what the page source looks like. And here you can see how it's rendered. The home page is rendered as an anchor tag. The about is just a span. And then you can see that our separator is just rendered again as a span tag. And to demonstrate the image tags, I'm going to add a folder for images. I'm just going to call it images. And so here's this images folder, and I'm just going to take some images I have and paste them in here. We'll use these, we might use these on other items. And let's do a refresh, see if that brings them in. If not, then if you click on this show all files icon, you can then right click on each of those and click on include in project, and that'll bring those items into the project. It's often a good idea then to disable that so you only see things that are in the project. And for us to create an image separator in this path separator template, all you do is realize that this can be any HTML. So I can throw an image in there. And the nice thing is if you drag and drop it, it'll create this image for you. Usually that works. We'll see if it worked. And there you see we have our image tag. You could also use an ASP.NET image and do it that way. Either way, it works just fine. We can also set the parent level displayed equals 2 and see what that does to us. I didn't include the whole thing, so I got to redo it. And right now we're not displaying that path separator. We would need, since we don't have we only have one tag, it's not displaying it, we probably need to change the root node template. But let's maybe add some complexity to our website map. I'm going to add another page underneath this. So if I put 2 levels here, I'm getting, I believe, the 2 levels. If I put parent levels 1 and then reran this, you can see it only goes back 1. So before we went all the way back to home because we had level 2, with level 1 it will only go back 1. So that's how we can make a sitemap path, which is really a form of breadcrumbs. And the next thing we could do is create say a tree server control, which is a way of navigating through your site. And so if we look at navigation, there is, or actually if we look at data, the first thing we need to do is add a sitemap data source. And so I'm going to add that on the page somewhere. And it looks like we have an extra symbol there. I'm going to hit Control KF and that will organize this for me. And so if we put a sitemap data source, and then if we drag in from our navigation a tree view, we need to set the tree view's data source equal to whatever we name our sitemap data source. Oh, we need data source ID. And so what you have here is now we have a navigation, and you can see this shows all of the pages on our sitemap. And starting up, so we have our breadcrumbs at the top, and obviously you'd want to style this like a more normal website, but typically this would go on the far left side and would provide your navigation, and it basically mirrors your sitemap, because that's what you identified as the data source. And it gives you these nice convenient buttons to expand and contract your hierarchy. And you can jump to any of them. Of course, right now, we only have this in purpose.aspx. We don't have them in everything. And as you can imagine, that's not ideal. Ideally, you'd want to just do this in one place rather than having to copy this everywhere. So what we could do is actually redo this a little bit. Let's add a master page. Which is typically where you're going to put all your site navigation, so you only have to do it once. So we have the site master here, and I'm just going to, since we already have it, take this from the last one we're working with here, copy that, and we'll put it above the content placeholder. And let's see, we were working with about. So I'm just going to create, let's see, so we don't have to recreate things. Let's do the history page. So I'm going to make a content page. From that master page, and so since it's using the master page, and since we put the navigation in there, it should just automatically have it all. And so here we are in the history page, and it has the navigation page. And so that worked pretty well. Let's see, we have the sitemap path, sitemap data source, and the tree view, and then the content placeholder. Oh, and unfortunately we need to rename this because I couldn't find it. That's why our sitemap path didn't work. We need to rename it to history.aspx, and that should make our sitemap path show up. And it does. So there's our sitemap path at the top. Here's our page, and if we made all of them content pages, then they would work. So I'm going to just delete these old ones, the about and the default. And let's see, and then just add them back in as content pages. So we've got the about page, the default page, the history page. Let's see, what else are we missing? We have home. Yeah, that's default. We have about. Let's see, we've got purpose. That one needs to be redone. And content and contact. And let's see if this works. So we are navigating through all these different pages. I haven't put content in any of these, but you can see the URL changes, shows we're going to each page. And of course, you would style this a little bit more. But there you have a website where you're navigating between all of the different pages. In addition to a tree view, there's a menu control. It works much the same way. And the nice thing is the way we set this up. If I go to my history page and I decide, or my master page, and decide I don't want to use a tree view, I could just drag in a menu control instead. Again, I would point to my sitemap data source. Typically that would be up here. I might be a little busy with a menu and a tree view, but we'll see if that works. And so here we can see a menu that shows up. It's kind of, unfortunately, it's conflicting with the sitemap path. So let's do a little modification here. I'm going to comment out the sitemap path and because if you have a menu, you kind of don't really need that. And the tree view. And then we'll see what this ends up looking like. Oh, and let's see, I think I just eliminated my data source. Yes. And I use Control KC and Control KU to comment and uncomment lines. It's nice because then I don't have to remember what the comment codes are. You can remember one shortcut key, or you can remember a bunch of different symbols for a bunch of different templates. So here we can see if I go to About, it brings me to About. I can go to History, and there I'm on the History page. Obviously, I need some styling to keep this from being in the way of what's underneath it, but this allows you to use a menu instead. So there's a number of different style options that you can do with these different controls. So I'm going to comment out my menu and put my tree view back in. I just want to disable the menu. So here's our menu. Here's our tree view again. I kind of like tree views better than I like menus, but it's whatever your user wants. So you should be able to use both. And in our tree view, we have options, for example, and you can see them here. And so you can set the style for a number of things. So for example, there's show checkboxes right here, and I can set that to leaf, for example. And digging into the MSDN documentation on these controls, so here you can see I can click on these checkboxes, which are set on the final element of the node. You can use the tree view not just for navigation, but really to represent any kind of a tree structure. So it's often useful to do just that, and being able to control all of its different attributes gives you a lot of flexibility. So again, if you just hit space and look up the documentation on all of these different, for example, you can change the hover style, leaf node styles, and you have some templates that you can set. So you really have a lot of control over, you can set a tooltip. You have a lot of control over what this thing ultimately looks like. When you first drag in these controls, they look like circa 1990 HTML, but you can style this to use more modern styling. You can also do this sort of thing programmatically. So if I take this out here, and of course, basically every attribute you have for control, you can set in the code behind. So if I go here on page load, I can say tree view, try tree view 1 dot. And again, you can navigate through IntelliSense and find all these cool things to set. So show checkboxes equals, and some of the things you'll have to look up in documentation, but you'll see that there's an enumeration here, and you can tell it's enumeration because it says enum. that gives you easy references to what you need to set. So for example, just like we did before, I'm going to set it to leaf. Now I'm doing it programmatically here in the page load, but you could imagine you could handle events to change how your control behaves. And it changed how this was rendered. If I look at the page source, it's probably pretty complex. Yes, it is throwing a lot of HTML up and maybe some JavaScript to make this do what it's doing. But the one reason why people love web forms is we saw that we were able to do all this just by drag and drop without having to write a ton of HTML. And if you wanted to access what's on there programmatically, I'm just going to throw it in the site master so we don't get into too complex a scenario. But you could set this in a content page and have it look there. So I'm going to put this button here. Create an on-click. Which is showed up here. And I'm just going to say if treeview1.checkNodes or checked nodes, if the count is greater than 0, that means that, well, one of the nodes has been checked. And we're going to throw in a label here. And we'll just say something like label1.text is equal to or we'll just say items checked. So treeview1, the checked nodes, is a collection of all the nodes that have been checked. You'll notice that treeview1, if you look at what's in it, you have the nodes, which are all the nodes. The checked nodes is just the ones that have been checked. And the nice thing about that is that you can interrogate that and just and after each one of these, we'll put a break. And I think we'll need to put an end paragraph tag to finish this one up here. So we'll set that, we'll plus equals that with our end tag. And the else for this one will be basically just and so if I click these two, it shows me which ones are selected. And if I don't have any selected, it shows nothing. So we have the ability to programmatically see what's checked in the tree view. So again, I have it up here in a navigation element in the master page, but really what we're simulating here is if we were using it to collect data from the user. And let's see. We can do more with this tree view. For example, and in fact, this probably let's actually create a separate page for this. So I'm going to show a different way since we're kind of getting away from the navigation element. We're going to add another XML file. And I'm going to call it hardware.xml. And I kind of have this one already built up. And you can see it's basically just a list of material of hardware. And I'm going to change my site master back to what it was before. So rather than having all this stuff, actually I'll put that temporarily in the content 2 of this content page. So we can imagine maybe we have a page where we have a tree view. That is being used to order items. And we'll change our site master back to a reasonable looking content page. And so I have a sitemap. We have the sitemap data source that we're pointing to. It's just a regular tree view. We're going to get rid of this button. And I need to change in the content page See if that fixes it. And I think it's having problems here. For now, I'm just going to comment this out. Ah, yes. So I need to take this button click event out of here. And put it into that content page. We'll use that later. And also we're going to move this, show the checkboxes off the leaf and put that also in the content page. Oh, wrong page. And we'll work with this a little bit later. For now, I just want to make sure that my site navigation looks normal again. Yes, and we deleted our content placeholder, so I'm going to just put one back in here. And let's see what we're thinking is going to be called. Okay, finally we've got a regular page, and it's back to where it was before with the normal site master, and we're going to then work on this content page so that it has a tree view in it that we can navigate in. So let's start off here, and I want to uncomment this tree view. And rather than the sitemap data source, I want to use a tree view actually as a way of pointing to an XML file. And so rather than a sitemap data source, I'm going to drag in a XML data source. And we have our tree view, and the data source ID is going to be this XML data source. So we'll replace that. I'm going to comment those out for now. So we just have the tree view and the XML data source. I brought in too much. So let's stop this. And try it again. So right now, we're pointing to XML data source. And once I put a pointer from the data file to the actual hardware.xml file, well, yes, it's there. We have hardware, but notice, so this is the site navigation from the homepage, and then here we have hardware. Let's make it a little more obvious where these divide up. So my content page, I'm going to add some paragraph tags and maybe just put a line here. And so there's my site navigation. That's from the master page. But down here, we can see that we have our hardware. The only problem is that it just says item and option. But we know that we have something in this data page, because if I look at the hardware one, I have all this information here, and there's kind of a, we suspect that it's probably lining up pretty well because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 some odd items, and so for every item I have in my XML file, there's one here. The problem is that we've, by default, with a tree view, it's going to display the tag name, not any of the attributes. So what we need to do is bind the attribute we want to display here instead of item or option. The way we can do that is if we go to this content page, we need to add some data bindings to our tree view. And so in this tree view, for the hardware, I'm going to add a data bindings tag. And we're going to say data member equals hardware. Text is equal to computer hardware. So that's one data binding. The other one is for the data member equal to item. The text field is going to be equal to category. And so let's take a look at those for a second. So in this XML file, in these tree bindings, so hardware will change to computer hardware, where we have item. So for the item data member, So data member points to the tag name. So in this case, item. It's going to use for its text field whatever's in category. And then we're going to do this similar thing. We're going to say that for option, we want the text field to not just be option. Instead, what we want it to be is choice. Because the choice attribute has what we want to display in here. So it's not going to put choice in here. It's going to grab whatever choice is assigned to or whatever category is assigned to. And so we've got this data bindings, and let's see what this produces. And we can see now it's grabbing those attributes and throwing them in instead. And the other thing that we want to do is show checkboxes. So in our tree view, I'm going to set show checkboxes is equal to leaf. And so now we can select what we want, and I'm going to re-enable this button. So now we have a button with a click event. I'm going to just re-enable that. I guess it already exists. We'll make sure, however. View code. I'm going to recombine these. We've already seen what this looks like. And so we have this button one click. And we just did this with an attribute, so I don't need to do the coded portion of it in the page load. So for each one, this should show in the label what was selected. And so I can pick what I want. And we can see that we're able to programmatically grab what's there and build an order. So this could be a nice way to create an application that allows someone to pick what they want on a piece of computer hardware they wanted to buy. Let's say that I wanted this I wanted to use some images. One of the nice things is that you have these image things that you can set. So I'm going to change the collapse image URL equal to and we're going to pick this collapse image here. We're going to set the expand image URL equal to, and again, I'm going to go into my images folder and pick that image that I already loaded in. And for a leaf node style image URL, do the same thing, and we'll pick the smiley face. And we can see now we've got these arrows now being used. We could probably come up with better symbology. I probably have these reversed, but they work. So that completes my demo of the tree node. There's a number of different things you can do with this, but that's the basics of using tree nodes and using site navigation. Thank you very much.